Jelena Ostapenko lost to Taylor Townsend, the two exchanging sharp words. Townsend saying Ostapenko accusing her of having no class and no education.
I can't even believe I'm sitting here talking about this right now. When I woke up this morning and saw what was trending on Twitter, I literally had to put my coffee down and replay the audio 3 times to make sure I was hearing correctly. CNN just dropped a bombshell that's about to destroy everything we thought we knew about what really happened between Jelena Ostapenko and Taylor Townsend at the US Open. This isn't just some tennis drama anymore. This is about to expose the ugly truth that's been hiding in plain sight in professional tennis for way too long. So here's what supposedly happened. And I'm saying supposedly because CNN hasn't actually released any leaked audio yet. But the story I'm about to tell you is based on what we all witnessed at the US Open, and it's absolutely wild. Picture this. August 28th, 2024, at the US Open. Taylor Townsend, this incredibly talented Black American tennis player, just crushed Jelena Ostapenko in straight sets 7-5, 6-1. Instead of graciously accepting defeat like a professional athlete should, Ostapenko completely lost it at the net. What we all saw on live television was already shocking enough. Ostapenko got right up in Taylor's face and told her she had no class and no education. But here's where it gets really messed up. According to the rumors swirling around CNN's newsroom, there's apparently additional audio that captured what Ostapenko was saying when the cameras weren't directly on her. If this leaked audio is real, it's about to end Ostapenko's career faster than you can say racist. The thing that makes this whole situation even more insane is that this wasn't just some random outburst over a tennis match. This was about tennis etiquette, specifically about Taylor not apologizing for a lucky net cord shot during their match. In tennis, when you hit a shot that clips the net and trickles over for a winner, it's considered polite to raise your hand and say sorry. It's not a rule, just good sportsmanship. But Taylor didn't do it, and Ostapenko absolutely lost her mind over it. Any reasonable person would think, okay, that's annoying, but you get over it. You don't corner someone at the net after you just got demolished and start attacking their character and intelligence. But Ostapenko went nuclear. If this alleged CNN audio is real, she went way beyond what we already know she said on camera. The whole tennis world is talking about this because what we did see was already bad enough. Telling a black woman in a predominantly white sport that she has no education hits different, and everyone knows it. Naomi Osaka called it one of the worst things you can say to a black tennis player in a majority white sport. Even Coco Gauff jumped in to defend Taylor. But if there's more audio that we haven't heard yet, this story is about to get so much worse. Honestly, the fact that CNN is supposedly sitting on this audio and deciding when to release it is kind of wild to me. If you have evidence of racist comments in professional sports, why are you waiting? Just drop it and let people make their own judgments. But maybe they're being careful because accusing someone of racism based on leaked audio is a huge deal that could destroy someone's entire career and livelihood. Here's what we do know for sure happened, and it's already pretty damning. After the match, Taylor handled the whole situation with so much class, it made Ostapenko look even worse by comparison. When reporters asked if she thought there were racial undertones to the comments, Taylor said she didn't take it that way personally, but acknowledged that being called uneducated has historically been used as a stereotype against black people. Meanwhile, Ostapenko went on Instagram trying to do damage control. She posted this whole explanation about how she was upset about tennis etiquette and how Taylor was being disrespectful for not apologizing for the net cord. Then she had the audacity to say that just because Taylor plays in her homeland doesn't mean she can behave and do whatever she wants. Excuse me, what does Taylor being American have to do with basic tennis courtesy? The backlash was so intense that Ostapenko had to post another apology 3 days later, claiming that English isn't her first language and she was only talking about tennis etiquette when she said, education. Let's be honest, that sounds like complete damage control to me. You don't accidentally tell someone they have no class and no education because of a language barrier. Those are pretty specific insults that translate the same way in any language. The craziest part is that Taylor didn't even know about the apology when reporters told her about it after her doubles match. She literally smiled and said, "That's nice that she did that she apologized. That's fine, that's cool." The level of grace this woman has is incredible. She said she hasn't personally heard from Ostapenko at all, which tells you everything you need to know about how sincere that social media apology really was. This whole incident started because of something that isn't even a real rule in tennis. The net cord apology thing is just tradition, just politeness. Some players do it, some don't, and most players don't care either way. Aryna Sabalenka literally said she got upset at Wimbledon when Amanda Anisimova didn't apologize for a net cord, but she didn't corner her after the match and start questioning her intelligence and character. The whole thing is so clearly about more than tennis etiquette. You don't explode like that over someone not saying sorry for a lucky shot unless there's something deeper going on. When you see tokogi sampu combine that with the specific language Ostapenko used attacking Taylor's class and education, it starts to paint a really ugly picture of what was actually happening in that moment. If CNN really does have additional audio that makes this even worse, then we're talking about a scandal that could rock the entire tennis world. This isn't just about one incident between two players. This is about the culture in professional tennis and whether black players are being subjected to treatment that white players would never have to deal with. The tennis establishment has been pretty quiet about this whole thing, which is telling. The WTA hasn't issued any statements about conducting an investigation or implementing sensitivity training or anything like that. They're probably hoping it all blows over and everyone forgets about it. But with CNN potentially sitting on explosive audio, this story might be far from over. Let's talk about Taylor for a second because her response to all of this has been absolutely perfect. She didn't play the victim. She didn't demand apologies. She just said her piece and kept playing tennis. She beat Mira Andreeva, the world number 5, right after all this drama happened. She made it to the 4th round of the US Open. She's letting her racket do the talking while everyone else is arguing about net cord etiquette and racial undertones. The fact that we're even having to have these conversations in 2024 is kind of depressing. We're really still dealing with black athletes being called uneducated by their competitors in professional sports on live television, and then having to parse whether it was racist or just really poor word choice due to a language barrier. The whole thing reminds me of all those times when people say something obviously problematic and then claim it was a misunderstanding or taken out of context. At what point do we stop giving people the benefit of the doubt and start holding them accountable for the impact of their words, regardless of their intent? If this CNN audio is real and contains actual racist language, Ostapenko's career is probably over. Sponsors don't want to be associated with that kind of controversy. Tournament organizers don't want that drama at their events. Other players don't want to be around someone who might explode with racist comments if they get upset about losing a match. But honestly, even without any additional leaked audio, the damage is already done. Ostapenko has shown who she really is when she's under pressure and doesn't get her way. She attacked another player's character and intelligence over a minor breach of tennis etiquette that most players wouldn't even notice. While everyone's been focused on this drama, some incredible tennis has been happening that deserves attention too. The men's side of this tournament has been absolutely wild. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are completely taking over men's tennis. They've split the last several Grand Slam titles between them, which is just insane when you think about it. These two are so much younger and more athletic than the old guard, and they're playing this incredibly fast, aggressive style that's just beautiful to watch. The crazy thing is how different their games are, but how evenly matched they are overall. Sinner is this incredibly precise, consistent player who just wears you down with his shot-making. Alcaraz is more explosive and unpredictable, hitting these impossible shots from everywhere on the court. When they play, it's like watching two completely different philosophies of tennis colliding at the highest level. The women's side has its own compelling storylines too. Aryna Sabalenka has been dominating recently, showing the kind of consistency that women's tennis has been missing. What's interesting about Sabalenka is how she's managed to stay at the top level while so many other players have been inconsistent. Ian's tennis has been pretty unpredictable the last few years. The tennis world has this reputation for being genteel and polite, but incidents like this show that there are some real issues with how players treat each other, especially when race and cultural differences come into play. The fact that multiple black players immediately recognized the problematic nature of Ostapenko's comments tells you everything you need to know about whether this was really just a misunderstanding about tennis etiquette. The response from the tennis establishment has been pretty disappointing. Where's the leadership from the WTA? Where are the statements about zero tolerance for this kind of behavior? Where's the mandatory sensitivity training or the investigation into whether this was an isolated incident or part of a pattern? Instead, we get Ostapenko posting a half-hearted apology on Instagram 3 days later, and then everyone pretending like the whole thing never happened. That's not how you address serious issues of discrimination and harassment in professional sports. The sad reality is that this probably isn't the first time something like this has happened in tennis, and it probably won't be the last, unless there are real consequences and systematic changes. How many other black players have been subjected to comments like this that didn't happen on live television at a major tournament? How many incidents have been swept under the rug or explained away as cultural misunderstandings? Taylor Townsend handled this situation with incredible grace and professionalism, but she shouldn't have had to. No athlete should have to endure personal attacks on their character and intelligence because their opponent is upset about losing a tennis match. No athlete should have to field questions about whether those attacks had racial undertones while they're just trying to compete and advance in a tournament. The fact that Taylor was able to channel all of this into motivation and actually play better tennis in the aftermath shows what kind of champion mentality she has. But imagine how much better her performance could have been if she didn't have to deal with this nonsense in the first place. This is why the rumored CNN audio is so important, if it exists. Because right now, Ostapenko gets to hide behind claims about language barriers and tennis etiquette. But if there's audio of her saying actual racist things, then we can stop pretending this was just a misunderstanding and start having honest conversations about the culture in professional tennis. The timing of this whole incident is also worth noting. We're living in an era where athletes are more empowered than ever to speak out about discrimination and unfair treatment. Social media gives them platforms to tell their own stories without having to go through traditional media or sports organizations that might want to minimize controversy. If CNN really does drop this alleged audio, it could be the catalyst for the kind of reckoning that professional tennis desperately needs. Sometimes it takes a scandal to force organizations to confront problems they've been ignoring or minimizing. But honestly, whether or not there's additional audio, we already have enough evidence to know that something needs to change. The weak response from tennis leadership has been just as problematic as the original incident. Here's what I think needs to happen. First, the WTA needs to implement clear policies about harassment and discrimination that go beyond just prohibiting obviously racist language. They need to address the culture that allows players to feel comfortable attacking their opponent's character and intelligence when they're upset about losing. Second, there needs to be mandatory training for all players about cultural sensitivity and appropriate conduct. I don't mean some half-day workshop that everyone sleeps through. I mean serious ongoing education about the history of discrimination in sports and the impact of seemingly innocent comments when they're directed at marginalized groups. Third, there need to be real consequences for violations. Not just fines or suspensions, but genuine accountability that makes players think twice before engaging in this kind of behavior. If sponsors start pulling out and tournaments start refusing entry, maybe players will realize that their actions have consequences beyond just bad publicity. Finally, there needs to be better support for players who experience discrimination or harassment. Taylor handled this situation amazingly, but she shouldn't have had to handle it at all. There should be systems in place to address these issues quickly and effectively. so that athletes can focus on competing instead of defending their dignity. I know some people think I'm making too big a deal out of this. They'll say it was just heat-of-the-moment comments from someone whose first language isn't English. They'll say Taylor should have just ignored it or handled it privately. They'll say bringing race into it is making it more dramatic than it needs to be. But those people are missing the point entirely. This isn't about one incident between two players. This is about the culture that allows these incidents to happen and the systems that fail to address them adequately when they do occur. When black athletes in predominantly white sports have to constantly navigate situations like this, it affects their performance, their mental health, and their career longevity. When young black kids see their role models being subjected to this kind of treatment, it affects their willingness to participate in these sports at all. The stakes here are so much bigger than just tennis drama or social media controversy. This is about whether professional sports are going to be truly inclusive environments where all athletes can compete without having to worry about discrimination and harassment. If CNN really does have audio that makes this situation even worse than what we already know, then I hope they release it soon because sunshine is the best disinfectant. Maybe hearing the ugly truth will finally force the tennis world to confront problems they've been ignoring for too long. Either way, Taylor Townsend has already won in the most important sense. She stood up for herself. She didn't back down. She let her tennis do the talking. She showed everyone what class and professionalism actually look like, which made the contrast with her opponent's behavior even more stark. The grace and dignity she displayed throughout this entire ordeal is exactly the kind of leadership the sport needs, even though she shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place.